The extraction zone appeared exactly as Sarah had memorized from the mission briefings months ago. A flat stretch of desert marked by infrared beacons visible only through night vision equipment. She parked both vehicles in defensive positions, creating a secure perimeter while they waited for helicopter pickup that should arrive within the hour. Her soldiers spread out in a protective formation, their movements now showing the tactical awareness they had learned during their harrowing escape. Sarah felt a deep pride watching Johnson check sightlines, and Rodriguez establish radio contact with the extraction team. These young people had grown significantly in just one night. Blackbird Base, this is Alpha Team requesting immediate extraction. Sarah spoke into the radio with the authority of her former rank. 5 personnel ready for pickup at designated coordinates. The response came back quickly, confirming that rescue helicopters were already en route to their location. As they waited in the darkness, Jake approached Sarah with questions that had been building throughout their escape.
Ma'am, can I ask why you really left the SEALs?
I mean, you're clearly still at the top of your game tactically. His curiosity was genuine and respectful. Sarah considered her response carefully. These soldiers had earned the right to understand her decision, especially after trusting her completely with their lives. The SEAL teams were my life for 15 years, she began, scanning the horizon for any signs of enemy pursuit. I loved the challenge, the brotherhood, the feeling that I was making a real difference in the world, she continued. But every mission meant saying goodbye to my daughter without knowing if I would ever see her again. After my husband died in a training accident, Emma became the most important mission of my life. Rodriguez nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of single parenthood in a military family. How did she handle you being gone so much? He asked, thinking of his own young son who cried whenever deployment time approached. She handled it better than I did, Sarah admitted, her voice revealing emotions she rarely showed. Emma learned to be independent, strong, and brave. But I realized I was missing the chance to teach her those qualities myself. I wanted to be present for the everyday moments, not just the dramatic farewells and homecomings. The sound of approaching helicopters grew louder in the distance. Sarah felt relief washing over her as she recognized the distinctive rhythm of military rescue aircraft. Their ordeal was almost over, and every member of her impromptu team would return safely to their families. There's something else, Sarah said, gathering her soldiers around her one final time. Tonight you all performed like seasoned special operations personnel. You followed orders under extreme pressure, maintained your composure in combat situations, and worked together as a cohesive unit. I've served with career Special Forces soldiers who didn't handle crisis situations as well as you did. The helicopters landed in clouds of sand and dust, their crews immediately establishing security positions around the landing zone. Sarah recognized the professional efficiency of the rescue team, remembering her own days conducting similar extractions for other units in distress. As they boarded the aircraft, Johnson turned to Sarah with obvious admiration. Ma'am, would you ever consider returning to active special operations duty? He asked over the noise of the helicopter engines. The military needs leaders like you. Sarah smiled and shook her head firmly. My active duty days are behind me, she replied. But I've learned something important tonight. I can still serve my country and be a good mother. Maybe my next assignment should be training other soldiers instead of counting inventory. The helicopter lifted off into the pre-dawn darkness, carrying them away from the destroyed base toward safety. Through the window, Sarah could see the glow of fire still burning where the armory had exploded. She had successfully protected her team and prevented enemy forces from capturing a significant weapons cache. Jake leaned over to speak with her during the flight. What will you tell your daughter about tonight? He asked, genuinely curious about how she would explain the dramatic shift from supply officer to tactical commander. I'll tell her that sometimes people need you to be more than what they expect, Sarah replied, thinking of Emma's proud face when she heard the story, and that the skills we develop in one part of our lives can help us serve others in ways we never anticipated. As the rescue helicopter flew toward the main base, Sarah reflected on the unexpected turn her quiet deployment had taken. She had come to Afghanistan seeking a safer way to serve her country, while maintaining her responsibilities as a mother. Instead, she had discovered that her special operations skills were still needed, just in different circumstances than she had expected. The sun began rising over the desert as they approached their destination. Sarah looked at the faces of the young soldiers she had led to safety, knowing that this experience had changed all of them forever. They had learned that heroes don't always look like what you expect, and that sometimes the most important battles are fought by people who never intended to be warriors. Her phone buzzed with another message from Emma. "Heard there was some trouble at your base. Are you okay?" Sarah typed back quickly. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Looking forward to telling you about my day when I get home." She had quite a story to share, and for the first time in months, she was eager to talk about her military service with her daughter. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Naval Air Station as Captain Marcus Reynolds stepped into the briefing room. The SEAL team commander had seen his share of dangerous missions, but today felt different. Intelligence reports suggested their next operation would require unprecedented coordination between ground and air, forces deep in hostile territory. Around the rectangular table sat 12 of the most elite fighters in the military. Navy SEALs, Marine Force recon operators, and Army Rangers filled most seats. Their weathered faces and confident postures spoke of countless successful missions. At the far end of the table, almost hidden in the corner, sat a figure that seemed oddly out of place. She appeared young, maybe late 20s, with shoulder-length auburn hair pulled back in a regulation bun. Her flight suit bore the wings of a naval aviator, but no visible rank or name tape. While the others engaged in the usual pre-briefing banter about their latest exploits, she remained silent, studying a tablet with intense focus. Captain Reynolds had worked with many pilots throughout his career. Most were cocky, loud, and eager to prove their worth to the special operations community. This one was different. Her silence wasn't shy or intimidated. It carried weight, like someone who had nothing to prove because they'd already proven everything that mattered. The intelligence officer began his presentation with grim efficiency. Their target was a heavily fortified compound in mountainous terrain, surrounded by sophisticated air defense systems. Multiple hostile aircraft were stationed at nearby airfields. The mission required surgical precision and split-second timing. One mistake could cost dozens of American lives. As the briefing continued, it became clear this operation pushed beyond normal parameters. The insertion point was 40 miles behind enemy lines. Extraction would depend entirely on air support maintaining control of hostile skies while fighting off superior numbers. Several pilots had already declined the mission after reviewing preliminary intel. Captain Reynolds watched his team's reactions carefully. These were warriors who thrived on impossible odds, but even they exchanged concerned glances. The margin for error was virtually non-existent. Air support would need to penetrate heavily defended airspace, establish dominance against overwhelming opposition, and maintain precise fire support for ground forces. The silence in the room grew heavy as the intelligence officer concluded his presentation. Everyone understood the implications. Without exceptional air support, the ground team faced almost certain annihilation. The mission's success hinged entirely on finding a pilot capable of achieving the seemingly impossible. That's when Captain Reynolds posed his question to the room. His voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to life or death decisions, but also revealed underlying concern for his team's survival. The pilots who'd attended previous briefings had all found reasons to excuse themselves when details became clear. The room fell completely silent. Combat veterans who faced death regularly now contemplated odds that challenged even their legendary courage. Every eye turned toward the quiet aviator in the corner, the only pilot remaining who hadn't already walked away from this seemingly suicidal mission. She looked up from her tablet for the first time since entering the room. Her green eyes held a calm intensity that made several hardened warriors shift uncomfortably. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady and quiet, but carried an unmistakable edge of absolute confidence. Her response would change everything about how the room viewed both the mission and the unassuming pilot who'd been sitting silently among them. In just a few words, she would reveal why she was the only aviator still present and why her presence alone might transform an impossible mission into merely extremely dangerous. 3 hours after the briefing concluded, Captain Reynolds found himself standing beside Sarah's aircraft in a secured hangar that officially didn't exist. The fighter before him looked like a standard F-35C at first glance, but closer inspection revealed modifications that defied conventional engineering. The stealth coating appeared different, almost fluid in how it absorbed light. Additional sensor arrays were seamlessly integrated into the fuselage. Most striking were the weapons pylons, designed to carry ordnance he'd never seen before. Sarah emerged from beneath the aircraft, wiping hydraulic fluid from her hands. "You do your own maintenance?" Reynolds asked, impressed despite himself. "This aircraft requires specific care that regular maintenance crews aren't cleared to provide," Sarah explained, running her hand along the wing edge. "Every system has been customized for my mission requirements. Standard protocols don't apply." A ground crew technician approached with a tablet full of diagnostics. "All systems green, Lieutenant. Fuel topped off. Weapons loaded according to mission specifications. She's ready whenever you are." Reynolds noticed the ordnance being loaded was unlike anything he'd seen. Those missiles looked different from standard air-to-air systems. "They should," Sarah replied. "Each one costs more than most people's houses. They're designed to penetrate advanced countermeasures and engage multiple targets simultaneously. Standard missiles wouldn't be effective against the opposition we're facing." The SEAL captain had witnessed many pre-mission preparations, but this felt different. Everything about Sarah's operation existed outside normal military channels. Her support staff held security clearances beyond his level. Her equipment incorporated technology he didn't recognize. "Lieutenant, I have to ask, what exactly is your background? Your service record shows pilot training, but nothing that would explain these capabilities." Sarah paused her pre-flight inspection. "I graduated top of my class from Naval Flight School, but that was just the beginning. I was selected for a program that doesn't officially exist. 18 months of additional training that pushed beyond normal human limits. Physiological conditioning, advanced tactical instruction, and integration with experimental systems." She gestured toward her aircraft. "This isn't just a modified fighter. It's a complete weapons system designed around a single pilot's capabilities. The targeting computers respond to my thought patterns. The flight controls adjust to my reflexes. After 18 months of integration, the aircraft and I operate as a single unit." Reynolds had heard rumors of experimental programs pushing the boundaries of human-machine integration, but he'd never encountered direct evidence. "How many pilots completed this program?" "I'm the only one still active," Sarah answered quietly. The training requirements eliminated most candidates. Those who completed integration were assigned to missions that didn't always end well. I've survived because I learned to think like the machine while maintaining human intuition. The hangar's massive doors began opening, revealing a runway that stretched into darkness. Mission time was approaching. Reynolds felt the familiar pre-operation tension building, but also something he hadn't experienced before: complete confidence in air support. "My team launches in 6 hours," he told Sarah. "Insertion point is 40 miles from the target. We'll need immediate air cover the moment we cross into hostile territory." Sarah nodded, climbing into her cockpit. "I'll be overhead before you even reach the drop zone. Enemy fighters won't know I'm there until they start falling out of the sky. Your ground approach will be completely undetected." The confidence wasn't arrogance. Reynolds recognized the calm certainty of someone who'd already run this mission dozens of times in their mind. Every contingency had been planned. Every enemy response anticipated. "One more question, Lieutenant. Why volunteer for this program? Why accept risks that most sane people would avoid?" Sarah's expression grew distant for a moment. "Because conventional warfare isn't enough anymore. Our enemies are developing capabilities that require unconventional responses. Someone has to be willing to push beyond normal limits to protect our people." The cockpit closed with a soft hiss. External power disconnected automatically. The aircraft's systems came alive with subtle electronic humming. Reynolds stepped back as the fighter began moving toward the runway. Within minutes, Sarah's aircraft had disappeared into the night sky, leaving only the faint trace of exhaust and the knowledge that his team now had the most formidable air support in military history. For the first time since receiving this mission, Captain Reynolds believed they might all come home alive. The ground operation would begin soon, but the air battle had already started. Somewhere in the darkness above hostile territory, a lone pilot was beginning the process of clearing the skies for his team's approach. The mission's success now depended on whether experimental technology and exceptional human skill could overcome overwhelming enemy numbers. The insertion helicopter flew through mountain passes at dangerously low altitude, its rotors churning the thin air as Captain Reynolds and his team approached their drop zone. Radio chatter was minimal, but Sarah's voice occasionally crackled through their headsets with updates that defied belief. "Tango Flight, this is Ghost Rider. 4 enemy fighters neutralized. You're clear to proceed to waypoint 3. Reynolds checked his watch. The mission had been active for only 23 minutes, and Sarah had already eliminated 4 aircraft. Her voice remained calm and professional, as if discussing routine training exercises rather than life-or-death aerial combat. The helicopter pilot's voice carried obvious amazement. "Sir, I'm not showing any enemy aircraft on radar, but I'm detecting multiple explosion signatures at high altitude. Whatever Ghost Rider is doing up there, she's doing it without being detected." Through the aircraft's small windows, Reynolds occasionally glimpsed distant flashes of light against the star-filled sky. Each flash represented an enemy fighter that would never threaten his team. Sarah was systematically clearing the airspace with surgical precision. "Ghost Rider, Tango Actual. Can you provide status on surface-to-air threats?" "Tango Actual, I've identified 17 active SAM sites, currently working to disable their targeting systems through electronic warfare. You'll have a clear corridor to the target, but maintain the planned flight path exactly." The helicopter suddenly banked hard left, following a route that seemed to zigzag randomly through the mountains. The pilot was following Sarah's precise guidance, threading between radar coverage zones and missile engagement envelopes. What should have been a 20-minute flight stretched to nearly an hour, but they remained completely undetected. 30 seconds to drop zone, the pilot announced. Ghost Rider has designated a landing area that's invisible to enemy sensors. Reynolds and his team prepared for fast rope deployment. Through his night vision goggles, the landing zone appeared empty and peaceful. No enemy movement, no signs of alert status. Sarah had somehow created a completely sterile environment for their insertion. The helicopter touched down briefly, just long enough for 12 elite operators to deploy with their equipment. Within seconds, the aircraft disappeared back into the mountains, leaving them alone in hostile territory 40 miles from their target. "Tango Team, this is Ghost Rider. You're completely clear for ground movement. I'm tracking 16 enemy patrols in your area, but I've created diversions that will keep them occupied for the next 4 hours. Your route to the target is secure." Reynolds marveled at the coordination. Sarah wasn't just providing air cover. She was orchestrating the entire battlefield from above. Her aircraft sensors were tracking every enemy unit while her electronic warfare systems created false targets and disrupted communications. The ground team began their approach march through treacherous mountain terrain. Every few minutes, Sarah's voice provided updates that allowed them to avoid enemy positions they couldn't even see. Her situational awareness encompassed the entire operational area. "Tango Actual, adjust course 15 degrees north. Enemy patrol approaching your position in 12 minutes. There's a concealed ravine that will provide perfect cover." The ravine appeared exactly as described, hidden behind rock formations that made it invisible until they were almost on top of it. The team settled into concealment, just as armed vehicles passed less than 50 meters away. The enemy soldiers showed no awareness of their presence. "How is she tracking ground units from that altitude?" whispered the team's communications specialist. Reynolds had been wondering the same thing. Standard fighter aircraft sensors couldn't distinguish individual personnel from such distances, especially through mountainous terrain. Sarah's capabilities exceeded conventional limitations by orders of magnitude. 2 hours into their ground movement, they encountered their first serious obstacle. A heavily fortified checkpoint blocked the only viable route to their target. Multiple machine gun positions, armored vehicles, and sophisticated surveillance equipment made bypassing impossible. "Ghost Rider, Tango Actual. We have a problem. Checkpoint Bravo is too heavily defended for standard bypass procedures. Tango Actual, maintain position. I'm going to create a distraction that will draw most defenders away from your location. When I give the word, you'll have approximately 8 minutes to pass through." What happened next would be discussed in military academies for years afterward. A series of explosions erupted across the valley, each one precisely timed and located to suggest a major enemy assault from the opposite direction. Flares illuminated the sky in patterns that mimicked incoming artillery strikes. The checkpoint's defenders reacted exactly as Sarah had predicted. Most vehicles raced toward the perceived threat, leaving only minimal security at the checkpoint itself. The remaining guards were completely focused on the apparent battle developing miles away. "Tango Actual, execute passage now. You have 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Reynolds led his team through the checkpoint with incredible ease. The few remaining guards never looked in their direction, completely absorbed by the spectacular light show Sarah had orchestrated. Within 6 minutes, they were through and moving toward their final objective. The target compound appeared ahead of them, exactly as intelligence photos had shown. But Sarah's voice carried a warning that changed everything about their approach strategy. Sarah's voice carried urgent concern as Reynolds and his team approached the target compound. Tango Actual, hold position immediately. Intelligence was incomplete. I'm detecting additional defensive systems that weren't in the briefing materials. The SEAL captain raised his fist, bringing his team to an instant halt behind a cluster of rocks that provided concealment from the compound. Ghost Rider, explain the situation. The compound has underground facilities 3 times larger than reported. I'm reading heat signatures for at least 200 personnel, not the 50 that intelligence estimated. More critically, they have mobile air defense systems that were moved into position within the last 6 hours. Reynolds felt his stomach tighten. Mission parameters had just changed dramatically. His 12-man team was facing odds that even elite special operations units couldn't overcome through conventional tactics. Can you neutralize the additional defenses? Working on it, but this requires precision that pushes even my capabilities. The air defense systems are positioned to create overlapping fields of fire. Taking them out without alerting the entire compound requires sequential attacks with split-second timing. Through their night vision equipment, the team watched Sarah's aircraft streak across the sky at incredible speed. What followed was a masterpiece of precision warfare. Explosions erupted throughout the compound with surgical accuracy, each one eliminating specific defensive positions without triggering general alarm. Tango Actual, I've cleared the outer defensive ring, but the underground facilities complicate extraction planning. Your target is in a subterranean complex that has only 2 exit points. Once you breach the surface facility, you'll have limited time before reinforcements arrive from the underground levels. Reynolds studied the compound through his scope. Sarah's strikes had eliminated guard towers and heavy weapons positions with incredible precision. Smoke and confusion provided perfect cover for their approach. What's our time window? 12 minutes from the moment you breach the main building until significant reinforcements emerge from underground. However, I can extend that window by creating additional diversions, but it will require me to engage surface-to-air missiles at close range. The mission had evolved beyond original parameters, but Sarah's capabilities provided options that hadn't existed before. Ghost Rider, what do you recommend? I'll create a corridor of destruction that draws defenders away from your primary objective. When you extract your target, I'll provide close air support during withdrawal, but you need to reach the extraction point within 20 minutes of mission initiation. Reynolds made the tactical decision that would define the mission's outcome. All teams execute assault plan modified for extended timeline. Ghost Rider, light them up. What followed was a symphony of coordinated destruction. Sarah's aircraft unleashed precision strikes that created the appearance of attacks from multiple directions. Secondary explosions triggered throughout the compound as fuel stores and ammunition depots detonated. Enemy personnel emerged from underground facilities directly into carefully orchestrated chaos. The SEAL team moved through the compound like shadows, encountering minimal resistance as Sarah's diversions drew defenders away from critical areas. Her real-time intelligence guidance led them directly to their target's location, while avoiding the heaviest concentrations of enemy forces. Target acquired, Reynolds reported as they located their high-value prisoner in the underground detention facility. Beginning extraction procedures. Tango Actual, be advised. Enemy reinforcements are mobilizing faster than anticipated. I'm detecting multiple vehicles approaching from the surrounding area. Your extraction window is shrinking. The team moved with practiced efficiency, securing their prisoner and beginning withdrawal through routes Sarah had cleared minutes earlier. But as they emerged from the underground facility, the tactical situation deteriorated rapidly. Ghost Rider, we have a problem. Multiple enemy helicopters approaching from the north. Our extraction bird won't be able to reach us if they establish air superiority. Sarah's response carried deadly determination. Tango Actual, maintain course to extraction point. I'm engaging the helicopters now, but this will require close-range combat that puts me in significant danger. The night sky erupted with tracers and missile contrails as Sarah engaged 4 enemy helicopters simultaneously. Her aircraft moved with impossible agility, weaving between incoming fire while delivering devastating attacks. One by one, the enemy helicopters fell from the sky in spectacular explosions. But the engagement had cost precious time and revealed Sarah's position to every enemy unit in the area. Surface-to-air missiles began launching from previously hidden positions throughout the valley. Reynolds watched in horror as dozens of missiles converged on Sarah's lone aircraft. Ghost Rider, you have multiple SAMs inbound. Recommend immediate evasion. Sarah's voice remained calm despite the mortal danger. Negative, Tango Actual. I'm continuing close air support for your extraction. Your lives are more important than mine. What happened next would be remembered as one of the most extraordinary displays of pilot skill in military history. Sarah's aircraft seemed to dance between incoming missiles, using electronic countermeasures and impossible maneuvers to avoid destruction while maintaining devastating fire support for the ground. Team. The extraction helicopter appeared through the mountains just as enemy ground forces closed in on Reynolds' position. Sarah's final act was clearing the landing zone with a series of precision strikes that eliminated the immediate threat, while incoming missiles finally overwhelmed her defenses. The extraction helicopter lifted off with Reynolds' team and their rescued prisoner, just as Sarah's aircraft took multiple missile hits. The night sky filled with the orange glow of burning fuel as her fighter spiraled toward the mountainous terrain below. Radio communications went silent. Ghost Rider, respond. Sarah, do you copy? Reynolds called desperately into his headset as their helicopter raced toward friendly territory. Static was the only reply. The flight back to base felt endless. Every member of the team understood that their successful mission had come at an unthinkable cost. Sarah Chen had sacrificed herself to ensure their survival, displaying courage that transcended normal human limitations. As their helicopter touched down at the forward operating base, Captain Reynolds was met by the same intelligence officer who'd briefed them 18 hours earlier. His expression was grim, but carried an undertone of anticipation that seemed inappropriate given the circumstances. Captain, I need you to debrief immediately. Command wants a complete report on Lieutenant Chen's performance and the mission outcome. Reynolds felt anger building inside him. Lieutenant Chen is missing in action, presumed dead. She gave her life to save my team. Your report can wait until we've processed what happened out there. The intelligence officer's response was unexpected. Captain, you need to see something before making assumptions about Lieutenant Chen's status. He led Reynolds to a secure communication center where multiple screens displayed real-time satellite imagery of the mission area. The wreckage of Sarah's aircraft was clearly visible, scattered across a mountain slope. But additional thermal imaging revealed something extraordinary. Sir, look at timestamp 0347 hours, approximately 12 minutes after the aircraft went down. The thermal image showed a figure emerging from the wreckage site. Despite the distance and image quality, the person's movement patterns suggested they were uninjured and moving with purpose toward a predetermined location. That's impossible, Reynolds whispered. No one could survive that crash. Lieutenant Chen's training included advanced survival techniques that aren't available to conventional pilots. Her aircraft was also equipped with experimental ejection systems designed to function even under extreme combat conditions. A new voice interrupted their conversation. Sarah Chen walked into the communications center, still wearing her flight suit but showing no signs of injury beyond minor cuts and bruises. Her calm expression suggested the night's events had been challenging but not unexpected. Reynolds stared in disbelief. Sarah, how did you survive? We watched your aircraft get destroyed. The ejection system activated automatically when missile impacts reached critical levels. I was unconscious during the crash but recovered in time to initiate survival protocols. My extraction took longer than planned, but backup teams retrieved me without incident. The intelligence officer smiled for the first time since Reynolds had known him. Lieutenant Chen's survival was always the most likely outcome. Her aircraft and equipment are designed specifically to maximize pilot survivability under extreme conditions. Reynolds felt relief wash over him, followed immediately by professional curiosity. Sarah, that performance tonight exceeded anything I've ever witnessed. How many pilots can operate at your level? Sarah's expression grew serious. Currently, just me. The program that created my capabilities has been discontinued due to the extreme training requirements and limited success rate. I'm essentially the last of my kind. What happens now? Will you continue these types of missions? As long as threats exist that require unconventional responses, I'll be available. Tonight proved that traditional military approaches aren't always sufficient. Sometimes you need someone willing to push beyond normal limits. Captain Reynolds looked at the woman who'd saved his team's lives through skill that bordered on superhuman. The Joint Chiefs were right to recommend you. Without your support, none of us would have survived. Sarah nodded quietly. That's why the program existed, to ensure that our people always come home, regardless of the odds they face. 3 months later, Reynolds received classified reports of enemy aircraft losses in various global hotspots. The pattern was always the same: superior numbers engaging unknown aircraft followed by rapid enemy defeat with no friendly casualties. Each incident was attributed to mechanical failures or pilot error. He knew better. Somewhere in the skies above hostile territory, Sarah Chen continued her solitary mission to protect American forces through capabilities that officially didn't exist. Her sacrifice in that mountain valley had been real, but her survival ensured that other teams would benefit from the same extraordinary protection. The program that created her might have been discontinued, but its single success story continued to write new chapters in the history of aerial warfare. Sarah Chen had become something beyond a conventional pilot. A guardian angel with wings of titanium and weapon systems that could turn impossible odds into routine victories. Reynolds never met her again, but he often looked up at the night sky during dangerous missions, knowing that somewhere above the clouds, a lone fighter pilot stood ready to sacrifice everything to bring her people home safely.